All right, so I'm going to get started. There it goes. Okay, so the first thing is, which is pretty obvious, although a lot of people don't actually know what it is what is a press release? So it is a document that business owners send to print, radio, television, online publication with story ideas based on the news in their business, in their company. And that news can be anything, and we'll get to that in a little bit. It can be new products or services, new hires, an event, new direction in the company. I actually did a press release on a yard sale, and I got pickup from a Channel 13 in Baltimore. They came out to do a story on a yard sale. So the news can be anything. All right, so how do they work? You or your press release public relations representative, sorry, my tongue is tied, sends the release, the photos, the videos, and other material to the media outlets. You can choose local media, state media, national media, or a little of all of them. You can also do trade publications. You can do international. It really depends on who you think is going to pick up your story and why they're going to pick up your story. It is best to use a distribution service. This is the company that is in between the public relations representative and the media outlets. This company basically takes what PR person gives them and distributes it to all the media. My partner that I use all the time is Facilis Growth, because Facilis Growth, we have a love relationship. Facilis Growth had me writing their blogs for their website, so I was using them for my clients for their press, for their distribution. But I also did it for another reason, because Facilis Growth, unlike companies like PR Newswire and Business Wire, Facilis Growth is 1/3 the cost of those two big companies. But the other reason is that they update their personnel regularly. So if you're sending through Facilis Growth, you're more likely to hit the right person. They also are more targeted than Business Wire or PR Newswire or some of the other companies. So if you're doing a press release about arts, they would only send it to people in the arts field. They will not send it to business editors. They will not send it to state government beat writers. They would only send it to arts. So that's one of the reasons why I use Facilis Growth. Okay, how do they work? Well, an editor will read your headline, and if it's written well, it'll be catchy, and they'll be like, oh, wow, I got to do a story on that. And then they'll read the first paragraph, and they'll still be inspired by what you write in the first paragraph, and then they'll do a story on it. And most likely, they will call you for an interview to make the story, flesh out the story, and not just use what's in the press release. If they want to just fill a small hole in their publication or online or on a TV segment, then they'll just do it as a brief, and then they won't call you. But for the most part, they will want to call you for an interview. Okay, so why do you want to do this? Why do you want to go through all the trouble of writing a press release, using a distribution service, and sending it out, and then wondering if you're going to get picked up? Here are the reasons. The first and most common reason is brand awareness. The more times you send out a press release, the more often the editors get to know who you are, and the more likely to get picked up. And when you get picked up, you get free publicity about your company. And that free publicity leads to more brand awareness, because now people have read your story and they now know about you. It is good for marketing. Even if you don't get picked up, just having one that you can present to potential clients or present to other organizations or potential investors. You can say, see, this is my news. This is what I've been doing all year, and give them several press releases. It also provides credibility if you have a new product or service. If you are in the health field and your product has gone through clinical trials that were blind studies, and you want to tell other people about that, the press release will add credibility to those blind studies because a third party will be reporting on it. So, and that's what's so important about credibility. It has to come from a third party, not from you and not from your investors or what. It has to be a third party. And then, of course, possible sales. And I put this as number 5 for a reason, because it's an indirect sale. If a story shows up in your local TV station or your local, and by the way, that yard sale, they were raising money for a horse rescue. And because it was on Channel 13, they got $1,000 in donations. But this goes to what I'm saying. If the Tampa Spectrum TV does a story on you, and it leads, and somebody then goes to your website, reads about you, and then buys something from you. It's not a direct, oh, it was on TV, somebody's going to buy from me. It's a very indirect thing. So, but it does lead to possible sales. Okay, so here is the big question that everybody, or maybe none of you, want to know, and that's how you write one. So I have this in steps, and then I have a sample, and I will show you the sample after I go through the steps. Okay, so you want to start out with either putting for immediate release or embargoed for. Now, when you're embargoing, it means, and this is good for book releases or a new product that you might be releasing. If you know that you're going to release something in, let's say, October 1st, then you want to send out the press release, but you'll embargo it for October 1st because you don't want the media to do anything on it until after it's released, because it could cause problems. A lot of scientists do this because they're still working on their results, and they don't want to publish the results until they know that they're verified and peer reviewed and those kind of things. So they will embargo it. Most companies will do for immediate release, and then that just means that they can use the news anytime they want. So it doesn't, and if it's a story that isn't necessarily time sensitive, editors might actually put it in their folder and hold it until they have nothing, and then they can pull it out and use it then. So it's not necessarily because you send it in September that it's going to show up in September. It might actually show up in December if it's not time sensitive. Okay, so under for immediate release, you want to have your logo and you want to have your contact information. The logo just lets the editors know that this is a real company and not a scam. And then the contact information is because they need to know how to find you. And in the contact, you want to put your phone number, well, your name, your company name, your phone number, your email, and your website address. The date of the release, this is not the same as the embargoed for. This is the date that you write the release. So you just put September 12th, because that's today. And then if it's embargoed for, then you would, you would still put today's date, but it's embargoed for. So, and then the next step is the headline. And this is what SEO people always call topics, but that's not a topic. A topic and a headline are two different things, but SEO people calls it topics. But the headline is the first line. It's what's going to grab their attention. It must have a subject, it must have a verb, and it must catch their attention. So for the yard sale, because it was July 4th, and the company, the horse rescue was actually, no, the city where the yard sale was celebrating its 200th bicentennial. I had tied both of those. So I said, community yard sale to celebrate 4th of July, 200 bicentennial, and support horses. And it was those three things that caught the editor's attention: the helping the horses, and the anniversary, and the July 4th. The date line is a misnomer. Most people think it's supposed to have a date in it, but actually a date line is just the city and state of where the press release is. So for Chris, she lives in Minnesota, and I forget the town that you live in, Chris. What's your town?
East Bethel.
East what?
East Bethel.
Oh, okay. So so if she was writing a press release, hers would say East Bethel, comma, MINN for Minnesota, because there's an AP style. We'll get to that later. But it's just the city and state. And then the next step is the lead paragraph. And this is the first paragraph of the press release. And it must follow on what you wrote for the headline. It must not repeat the headline, but it must also capture their attention, because editors and producers, they will read the first paragraph, they'll read the headline first paragraph. If you can't capture their attention in those two things, out it goes, and your chance of getting a story picked up is gone. Okay, then the next step is the body of the release. And this is between the lead paragraph and the 30. And this is all the basic information that you wanted to write about your product or your event that's coming up. That's what goes in the body of the release. You want to write this so it's an inverted pyramid. So all the information that is important is at the top. And then you keep going down until the very last amount is not really important. And they used to do this. The reason for the inverted pyramid is attention, but also it was way back when there used to be a lot more newspapers than there are now. A newspaper editor could just slice off a press release if it didn't fit in the paper, and then the bottom stuff wasn't important. So that's why you had to write it in inverted pyramid, because you didn't want to have important information be sliced off. That doesn't happen so much today because everything's digital, and a lot of the information that you're sending will get put on their online site instead of their newspaper paper. But the principle is still the same. You just want the important information at the top. And then you want to finish with one last sentence or one last paragraph, and that's your final information. And often when I send out a press release for an author I'll usually say the book is available on Amazon, and leave that as the final sentence. And then you have to finish it up with the 3 number signs or the -30-. And then under the 30-30, you put about the company. Now, what is the 3 number signs and what is the -30-? They're the same thing, but it tells the editor and producer that they are at the end of the press release and that nothing else the rest of it's just background information, which about the company is the background information. Okay, so this, and I took a picture of one that's on my screen. So this is one, I mean, so you can't really see this, but let me see if I can share. Okay, can you see this? This is the actual press release. And then I have comments of pretty much everything that I just talked about, but this is what it looks like, or what it's supposed to look like.
I don't see anything, Louise, other than the
Okay,
sample roofs.
see, all right, so, okay, I was afraid that wasn't gonna work. So, so this is hard to see because it's a picture of a document, but just get it. This is just to give you an idea. I can send you an actual sample. This one I can send you if you want it in your email, and then you can have it. Okay. All right, so now we're going to go on to how to use them. Well, the first thing you want to do is you want to create a newsroom, a press room, or a media room on your website. And any press release, after you've sent it to the media, you want to put it in this spot on your website, because a couple things. One, a journalist will go to your company website to look for background information, and they will go into the newsroom, the press room, whatever you call it, and look for that information that goes with that press release. They might even look for that press release because they lost it in their email. So you need to have a copy there. The second reason you want a copy there is for search engine optimization, because you're putting in relevant new content on your website, and that increases your search engine optimization. The third reason is because of potential investors and potential clients. They will want to find out more about you before they go any further with you. And reading a press release on your website is one way to find out about you. So you can, so the second thing that you can do with a press release is you can break up some of the content that's in it and use it on social media posts with a link to your website, because you have added it to your newsroom. And so you can take the headline, for example, and just put that on your Facebook page, and then a link to the actual website. Or you can put it as an article on LinkedIn, and then you have the whole press release on LinkedIn. Or you can put a part of the picture on Google My Business, and with a little brief about what the press release is. You can use in so many ways on social media, and you should, because that gets you more brand awareness by putting it in many different places. Third, you want to send it to the potential clients and your actual clients in an email marketing campaign, because of what I was saying about the newsroom. You know, they want to know a little bit about you. If they're already a client, they want to know what great things you're doing. If they're a potential client, then they want to see how you're different from other competitors, or they might want to cheer you on for things that you might be doing. And then I already mentioned the fresh content. So, okay, pitfalls to avoid. Artificial intelligence or computer generated press releases. This is probably one of my biggest pet peeves, because when you have a chat GPT creating your press release, A, it's not going to be in the correct format. B, it's going to sound like a computer generated it. And C, it's not going to attract attention, because the journalist on the other end can recognize that it's written by a computer or artificial intelligence. So you want to also avoid the online sites that can generate your press release for you, because these are very template, and when a journalist is reading it, they can tell that it was written by a template, and that it's not really news. Well, it might be real news for you, but they won't look at it that way. They'll tend to throw it away because journalists get thousands of press releases every day. So they're going to pick out the ones that spark their interest and they're going to throw away everything else. Press releases written in the incorrect format. Journalists want it in Associated Press style. Now I have to clarify this, that this is US journalists. I have no idea what Philippines wants. And Canada tends to be UK style, but it also does AP style. So it's kind of up in the air for Canada. You can do both, I think, and get away with it. But Associated Press style is that inverted pyramid. Like I said, it's using the correct date, the correct city and date, city and state in your press release for the dateline. For example, it's not a 2-letter code for the states. You have to actually know what for Florida, it would be FLA period is your Florida dateline. Minnesota is MINN period. So it's not the postal code. So you have to be aware of that. And then all those other things, all those other little things that I was talking about, like the -30 that's part of the formatting. So you just have to make sure that it's an Associated Press style and it's in the correct format if you want to get picked up. And you also want to avoid distribution services that guarantee it will be on 200+ sites, because those are scams. They're not real news. These are companies that actually have you pay for an advertising on something else. So if it says it goes to CNN News, it really isn't. It's just advertising on CNN's public site. It's not even advertising on the real news site. So, okay, so that brings us to the end. And if I didn't answer your question, I'm willing to listen to your question now and answer them. And
Okay, good job, Louise.